Whispers of Wisdom, Reflections on a Lifetime. Disclosure. The compositions presented herein are a rich amalgamation of nearly 4 decades of life experience, 56 years of a loving marriage, and 62 years of dedicated ministerial experience. Throughout my journey, I have been shaped by the invaluable lessons learned in the school of hard knocks, which has informed my perspective and creativity. To bring my ideas to life, I utilize a variety of computer programs, including Squibler, Gamma, Copilot, and others. These vital resources help me add depth and clarity to the thoughts and concepts that often swirl in my mind. Writing is not just a task for me, it is a cherished form of entertainment and expression that reflects my unique experiences and insights. Your understanding of this background can enhance your appreciation of the work represented here, which is deeply rooted in my life's personal and professional tapestry. Thank you for taking the time to engage with my compositions. Widow May's Resilience. The sun, a molten coin sinking behind the skeletal frame of the old cotton mill, cast long shadows across Widow May's small garden. It wasn't much, a patch of earth barely bigger than a wagon wheel, tucked between her weathered clapboard house and the overgrown fence that separated her property from the dusty road. But it was her sanctuary, a vibrant splash of color against the monochrome landscape of fading cotton fields. Tomatoes, plump and red as a cardinal's breast, hung heavy on their vines. Rows of beans, their leaves a vibrant green, marched in orderly lines, their slender pods promising a bountiful harvest. Even the zinnias, their petals a riot of hues, seemed to defy the encroaching dusk with their cheerful optimism. Widow May, her hands gnarled and brown like the earth she cultivated, knelt amongst her plants, her fingers gently stroking a velvety eggplant. She hummed to him, a tune as familiar and comforting as the scent of freshly turned soil. Her garden wasn't just a source of food, it was a reflection of her spirit, a testament to her unwavering resilience. Life hadn't been kind to May. She'd lost her husband, Jedediah, to a sudden illness 20 years ago, a blow that had left her reeling. Then came the slow, agonizing decline of the cotton industry, a death that was just as surely killing the heart of Whitesburg. Her boys, both of whom had worked at the mill, had been forced to seek their fortunes elsewhere, leaving her alone with her memories and her small plot of land. But May was not one to surrender. She'd faced hardship before and found a way to rise above it. She'd planted her first seeds the spring after Jedediah died, her hands shaking but her resolve firm. Each sprout was a tiny victory, a defiance against the grief that threatened to consume her. The garden had become her anchor, her solace, her reason for carrying on. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of apricot and rose, May straightened up, her back aching but her heart full. She gathered her harvest, carefully placing the ripe tomatoes in a wicker basket, the beans in a burlap sack. The air was cool now, carrying the scent of woodsmoke and honeysuckle. As she walked towards her house, she heard the familiar sound of voices drifting from her porch. It was Mrs. Henderson, her neighbor, and Miss Millie, the town's unofficial historian, both of them perched on the rocking chairs, their silhouettes outlined against the fading light. "Evenin', May," Mrs. Henderson called out, her voice warm and inviting. "Evenin'," May replied, her smile as warm as the summer evening. Mrs. Henderson, a woman whose kindness was as abundant as her cornbread, rose to help May carry her harvest. Miss Millie, her eyes twinkling behind her spectacles, offered a wry comment on the size of May's tomatoes. "Bigger than any I've seen this year," she declared. "Must be the magic in your earth, May." They settled onto the porch, the three women enveloped in a comfortable silence punctuated by the rhythmic creak of rocking chairs and the chirping of crickets. The conversation flowed effortlessly, weaving together tales of their lives, their joys, their sorrows, their shared experiences in this town that was slowly fading but somehow still enduring. The porch sagged under the weight of us, May, Mrs. Henderson, and young Billy Ray. A chipped enamel basin overflowed with vibrant green beans, their tips still glistening with dew. Another held plump peas, their bright green shells already starting to pile up beside it. And then there was the corn, its silken threads a tangled, golden mass. The air hung thick with the sweet scent of freshly picked produce and the sharp tang of impending summer rain. May turned the conversation with this question: "Have you heard about the rooster?" "Heard tell that old man Fitzwilliam's prize-winning rooster finally met its match," Mrs. Henderson announced, her voice a low rumble that belied the mischievous glint in her eye. She expertly snapped a bean, the sound a sharp counterpoint to the rhythmic shelling of peas. A weasel, they say, May chimed in, her fingers flying. Got it right out of the coop. Served him right, that rooster. Always crowing at the crack of dawn. I found myself wondering if she truly believed that, or if her annoyance at the early morning crowing was more potent than her empathy for the rooster. It was difficult to discern. Weasel or not, Billy Ray piped up, his youthful voice surprisingly steady. It's a shame about the prize ribbon he'd already won. Heard he was gonna enter it in the county fair. He worked methodically at his peas, his small hands surprisingly efficient. I focused on the task at hand, my own fingers stained green from the beans. The gossip flowed like the stream behind the house, each story a tributary feeding into the larger river of Whitesburg news. A lost dog, a misplaced wedding ring, a surprisingly bountiful tomato harvest, it all came spilling out, punctuated by the snapping, shelling, and the rustling of corn silk. It was a ritual, a comforting pattern in our lives. Speaking of county fairs, May began, her voice softening slightly. Remember last year, when old Silas tried to enter his prize-winning pumpkin but it rolled right off the truck? The three of us erupted in laughter. Even now, the memory brought a smile to my face. The image of the colossal pumpkin tumbling into the mud was a perfect comedy skit. But this year, things were different. This year, a quiet unease permeated the air, a subtle shift in the familiar rhythm. I couldn't quite place it, but there was a tension beneath the surface of our shared laughter. They say young Sarah Jane's courting someone from out of town, Mrs. Henderson whispered, her eyes darting around as if the very air could carry her secret away. The snapping of the beans slowed. Really? May asked, her usual cheerful energy dampened. This was a new development. A departure from the familiar. It felt strangely unsettling. Billy Ray, however, remained focused on his work. He must not have been paying close attention. Or maybe he already knew. Children always knew more than they let on, I mused. A city boy, Mrs. Henderson added, a note of disapproval coloring her words. Fancy clothes and city ways. Wouldn't last a week out here. The unspoken apprehension hung between us, heavy as the approaching rain clouds. The snapping of beans and shelling of peas slowed to a hesitant rhythm, mirroring the uncertainty that had settled over our usual light-hearted gossip. The corn silking, though, continued at the same pace. The rhythm was a silent anchor in the changing tide of our lives. The vibrant green, golden hues of the vegetables began to lose their vibrancy under the ominous clouds, a mirror of the changing rhythm of our small community. The quiet unease, like the rain clouds, threatened to overwhelm us. But for now, we continued, our hands busy, our tongues loosening the familiar grip of our shared secrets and anxieties, one bean, one pea, one thread of silk at a time. May shared her anxieties about the upcoming winter, the challenges of making ends meet with dwindling resources. The decline of the cotton mill had left many in Whitesburg struggling, a quiet desperation hung in the air, a palpable undercurrent in their everyday lives. But the women also shared moments of laughter, exchanging stories about their children and grandchildren, reminiscing about simpler times. Mrs. Henderson recounted the antics of her grandchildren, their innocent mischief a welcome distraction from the weight of their concerns. Miss Millie, ever the observer, shared a bit of local gossip, her sharp wit softening the harsh edges of their worries. The air was filled with the comforting aroma of Mrs. Henderson's freshly baked biscuits, which she had brought over, a symbol of their unspoken support for May. The biscuits, warm and golden, were a balm to the anxieties that clung to them like the evening dew. May spoke of her sons, their struggles in the city, their hopes for a better life. She shared her pride in their resilience, a mirror of her own, though a hint of loneliness laced her words. The distance between them was a constant ache. As the night deepened, the stars appeared, pinpricks of light in the inky sky, offering their silent comfort. The women continued to talk, sharing stories and offering words of encouragement. The porch, a small island of warmth and community, was a refuge from the darkness that surrounded them, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, they were not alone. The rhythmic creak of the rocking chairs, the quiet murmurs of their conversations, the shared comfort of their presence, all these elements combined to create a scene of quiet strength, a testament to the unbreakable bonds of community that had helped them to endure, even amidst the fading glory of their town. They spoke of their worries, but also of their resilience, their shared memories serving as a counterpoint to the town's fading prosperity. Their stories, interwoven with laughter and tears, reflected the complex tapestry of Whitesburg life. The women's support for May wasn't just about practical help, it was about shared experiences, mutual understanding, and a deep-seated connection that transcended the challenges they faced. It was about the quiet dignity they found in their shared resilience, a strength born from their shared experiences and a testament to the enduring spirit of Whitesburg. The town may be fading, but its people, bound together by 1,000 unspoken threads of friendship, showed no intention of letting go. The ghosts of King Cotton might haunt the landscape, but the spirit of its people, strong and enduring, would not be so easily conquered. May looked at the women, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of the porch light, and felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She wasn't alone. She had her garden, her friends, her memories. And that was enough. It was everything. The crickets chirped, the stars twinkled, and the gentle breeze rustled through the leaves of the nearby oak tree, a quiet lullaby for a town that, despite its struggles, continued to endure, one sunset, one harvest, one whispered conversation at a time. The future was uncertain, but in that shared moment of community, in the warmth of friendship and the comforting weight of shared history, there was a hope, quiet but resolute, that even in the shadow of King Cotton's decline, Whitesburg would endure. The spirit of its people, like Widow May's garden, would continue to bloom. Widow May would sit on her porch, her shoes off and her snuff box nearby, swinging or rocking in her chair as she passed the time, watching the people go by. She found solace in these quiet moments, a chance to reflect on the days gone by and the faces that made Whitesburg her home. The church bells toll. Reverend Hollis stood tall in front of the towering steeple, his eyes fixed on the old bell. He carefully climbed the worn wooden ladder, his hands gripping tightly onto the frayed rope. As he reached the top, the sun's rays illuminated the scene, casting a warm glow on the pastor's determined face. With a steady hand, Reverend Hollis tied the new rope to the bell, replacing the old one that had succumbed to years of use. As he descended, the bell let out a triumphant ring, signaling the start of a new chapter for the church. The pastor's task was complete, and the steeple stood tall and proud, a symbol of fresh beginning. The church bell, old and cracked, told its mournful song, a sound that resonated not just through the hallowed halls of the Whitesburg Community Church but through the very heart of the town. It was a Sunday like any other, the sun a hazy orb in the pale morning sky, yet the air hummed with a different kind of energy, a palpable sense of shared grief and quiet resilience. Today, they laid Brother Silas to rest. Brother Silas, a man whose laugh had once filled the church with a joyous sound, whose calloused hands had worked tirelessly in the cotton fields, whose heart had held a boundless capacity for kindness, was gone. His passing, like the slow decline of the cotton industry, was another crack in the foundation of Whitesburg, a subtle shift in the familiar landscape of their lives. The church, a simple wooden structure that had weathered countless storms, both literal and figurative, was packed. Folding chairs had been brought in to accommodate the overflow. The scent of lilies, starkly beautiful against the worn wooden pews, hung heavy in the air, a floral counterpoint to the somber mood. Faces, etched with lines of hardship and time, were illuminated by the soft glow of the stained glass windows, their expressions a mosaic of sorrow and acceptance. Old man Fitzwilliam, his frame stooped with age, sat near the front, his eyes red-rimmed but unwavering. He'd known Silas since they were boys, their youthful adventure in the cotton fields a shared legacy of laughter and hard work. Beside him sat his wife, Martha, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her silent grief a testament to the depth of their bond. Across the aisle sat Widow May, her face drawn and pale, but her gaze steady. Silas had been a friend, a neighbor, a silent pillar of strength in their little community. His absence left a void, a space that no number of hymns or prayers could easily fill. The service began with a hymn, Amazing Grace, its familiar melody a balm to their wounded spirits. The voices, some shaky, others firm, rose in unison, a wave of sound that washed over the mourners, uniting them in a shared moment of solace. The words, ancient and comforting, spoke of redemption and hope, a necessary counterpoint to the heavy weight of their sorrow. It was a familiar tune, echoing the hymns sung by their grandparents, their parents, a testament to the enduring traditions that bound Whitesburg together. Each note was a thread in the fabric of their shared history, a comforting reminder of their resilience and faith. Reverend Hollis, his voice rich and resonant, delivered the eulogy, painting a portrait of Brother Silas not as a man defined by his mortality, but by the life he had lived, a life steeped in faith, hard work, and unwavering kindness. He spoke of Silas's devotion to his family, his unwavering commitment to his community, his quiet generosity, his strength. He recalled stories shared by community members, tales of Silas's unwavering optimism, of the time he'd helped Mrs. Henderson with her ailing orchard, of his quiet generosity towards those less fortunate. He painted a picture of a community woven together with threads of trust, respect, and mutual understanding. The church was filled with the sounds of quiet sobs, the rustle of tissues, the silent acceptance that even in the face of loss, life goes on. The words were simple, heartfelt, devoid of flowery language, just like Silas himself. Reverend Hollis spoke not from a lofty pulpit, but from the heart of the community, reflecting their shared values and experiences. His message was one of comfort, not in denying their grief but in accepting it, in finding solace in their shared faith, and in celebrating the life of a man who had lived a life worthy of commemoration. He reminded them that Silas's spirit would remain, woven into the very fabric of Whitesburg, a constant reminder of their collective strength, a testament to the enduring bonds of kinship that tied them together. The service was followed by the burial, a simple affair at the edge of town, overlooking the fading cotton fields. The soft earth seemed to swallow Brother Silas whole, a quiet ritual mirroring the slow, gradual decline of the mill town's former glory. The mourners gathered around the freshly dug grave, their faces reflecting the golden rays of the afternoon sun. They threw handfuls of earth onto the wooden casket, their hands and faces streaked with soil, a physical reminder of their connection to the land, their shared history, their collective grief. The silence was punctuated only by the soft sounds of nature, the gentle rustling of leaves, the chirping of crickets, the distant drone of a tractor in a nearby field. The sounds weren't intrusive, they were a part of the scene, a gentle counterpoint to the somber mood, a reminder that life, in all its complexities and contradictions, continued. As the mourners dispersed, a sense of quiet camaraderie lingered in the air. They hugged, whispered words of comfort, shared stories of Brother Silas, their voices mingling with the afternoon breeze. They were a community bound together by loss, yes, but also by unwavering resilience, by a shared history etched in the very soil of their town. The church bell's toll, at first mournful, now seemed to carry a different message, testament to the enduring spirit of Whitesburg, a town clinging to its traditions, its faith, its people. The decline of the cotton industry, the loss of Silas, these were wounds that would leave scars, but the community, like the old church, would endure, their shared grief transformed into a quiet strength, their sorrow a testament to the depth of their bonds. Later that evening, the church hall buzzed with activity. Women, their faces etched with both sorrow and determination, prepared food for the wake. The air was filled with the comforting aroma of fried chicken, potato salad, and sweet tea, simple food, prepared with love, a tangible expression of the community's compassion. Men, their voices low, sat around tables sharing stories of Silas, their laughter a fragile, but welcome, counterpoint to the earlier sadness. Laughter and tears flowed freely, a testament to the full spectrum of human emotion, evidence of the bonds that held Whitesburg together, even amidst loss and uncertainty. The wake was a celebration of life as much as it was a mourning of death. It was a reminder that even in the face of grief, there was comfort in community, in shared memories, in the enduring strength of human spirit. As the night deepened, the flickering candlelight cast long shadows on the walls of the church hall, a warm glow mirroring the quiet strength and resilience of Whitesburg, a town that, despite its struggles, continued to endure. The ghosts of King Cotton might linger, but the spirit of Whitesburg, like the church bell's enduring toll, would continue to resonate. They were people woven together by shared history, bound together by grief, and strengthened by an unwavering commitment to community. Whispers at the funeral home. The air inside Butch Hampton's funeral home hung heavy, not just with the scent of lilies and embalming fluid, but with the weight of unspoken words and half-remembered stories. It wasn't a grand establishment, just a modest brick building tucked away on the edge of town, a place where life's final curtain call played out with quiet dignity. Inside, Mr. Peabody, the undertaker, a man as quiet and unassuming as the building itself, moved with a practiced grace. His hands calloused and gentle, prepared Brother Silas for his final journey, a task he performed with a respect that bordered on reverence. He knew the town, knew its secrets, its joys, and its sorrows, more intimately than most. Each body he prepared was a chapter in the town's ongoing saga. He'd seen them all pass through his capable hands, farmers whose weathered faces mirrored the hard earth they toiled upon, mill workers whose lives were woven into the very fabric of the cotton industry, mothers whose gentle hands had soothed countless scrapes and heartaches, and fathers whose shoulders had borne the weight of their families' hopes and dreams. Mr. Peabody was a silent observer, a keeper of secrets, a witness to the ebb and flow of life in Whitesburg. He didn't gossip, he listened. His quiet demeanor and discerning eyes had earned him the trust of the entire community. His funeral home wasn't just a place of mourning, it was a repository of the town's collective memory. His current task, preparing Brother Silas, was especially poignant. He remembered Silas as a boy, a bright-eyed lad with a mischievous grin and a heart as big as the Texas sky. He'd seen him grow into a man, his laugh echoing through the cotton fields, his hands calloused but steady, his spirit unbroken by hardship. Now, his task was to prepare Silas for his final rest, to ensure his passage was as peaceful and dignified as his life. He worked with meticulous precision, a testament to his respect not only for the deceased, but for the legacy he left behind. As he worked, his mind wandered, recalling the lives of other residents he'd laid to rest. There was Old Man Hemlock, the town's eccentric hermit, whose life was as enigmatic as his isolated existence. He'd found Old Man Hemlock, a lone figure nestled in his ramshackle cabin, surrounded by his beloved books and forgotten treasures. He'd died peacefully, surrounded by the objects that had filled his long, solitary life. His passing, while quiet, left a noticeable gap in the town's strange and quirky tapestry. Then there was Mrs. Periwinkle, the town baker, whose sweet treats had sweetened countless moments of joy and sorrow. Her hands, once nimble and quick, had crafted cakes and pies that were legendary throughout Whitesburg. Her funeral had been a fragrant affair, filled with the scent of cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla, a sweet farewell to a woman who had brought so much sweetness into the lives of others. Her death marked the end of an era, the absence of her pastries a tangible reminder of her absence. He remembered young Timmy Carter, the casualty of a senseless accident, a bright light extinguished far too soon. His death had cast a pall over the entire community, a stark reminder of life's unpredictable nature. Mr. Peabody recalled the grief of Timmy's parents, their faces etched with unbearable sorrow, a pain that mirrored the pain of many parents who had also suffered similar losses in Whitesburg. He'd seen it all, felt it all. And there was the quiet dignity of Miss Abigail, a woman who had dedicated her life to the town's library. She presided over the library for over 50 years, a gentle guardian of stories and knowledge, her life an echo of the stories she cherished. Her passing had brought a quiet sorrow, a recognition that a valuable chapter in the town's history had come to an end. Her life, a slow and gentle fade into the quiet night, was mirrored in the slow decline of the cotton industry. As Mr. Peabody finished preparing for Brother Silas, he paused, his gaze drifting to the worn photographs on the wall, each silent testament to a life lived, a soul departed. Each face whispered a story, a tale of love, loss, and the quiet resilience of the human spirit. The faces in the photos were familiar, their stories intertwined with the very fabric of Whitesburg. They represented the collective heartbeat of the town, a rhythm that continued, even as individuals faded away. He picked up Silas's worn Bible, its pages brittle with age, a testament to the faith that had guided Silas's life. The worn leather, smooth from years of handling, spoke volumes. He noticed a small, pressed wildflower tucked within its pages, a delicate testament to a life touched by nature's simple beauty. It was a quiet reminder that even in death, there was beauty, a subtle echo of the life that had been lived. He gently replaced the flower and closed the book, a small act of respect for a well-lived life. The funeral home was more than just a building, it reflected Whitesburg itself. It was a place of quiet contemplation, a space where the community gathered to say their last goodbyes, to reflect on lives lived, and to remember the bonds that connected them. It was a place where the whispers of the past mingled with the uncertainties of the future, where the echoes of laughter and tears intertwined, a testament to the complex tapestry of life in a small town grappling with change and clinging to its traditions. The quiet dignity of Mr. Peabody's work, that he shared with the owner Butch, served as a constant reminder of life's fragility and the enduring power of community. He was a silent witness to the town's history, a keeper of its secrets, and a guardian of its collective memory. The stories of the departed echoed in the hushed stillness of the funeral home, their presence felt even as their physical forms faded into the earth. The ghosts of King Cotton might be fading, but the memories, the stories, the spirits of Whitesburg's inhabitants would live on, whispered in the stillness of the funeral home, preserved in the quiet dignity of Mr. Peabody's unwavering care. Butch, funeral director and owner, lightened the conversation with the story of former employee, Spanky. Spanky was not just any gravedigger, he was the king of the cemetery, a jolly giant whose belly shook like a bowl full of jelly each time he chuckled, a sound that echoed between the tombstones. He loved two things: digging graves and making terrible puns about them that made the dead curl in their eternal rest. One fateful Monday, as Spanky prepared for a long day of digging, he decided to grab a quick snack before work. He munched on twin triple cheeseburgers topped with extra bacon, washed down with a gallon of soda. With a satisfied grunt and a hefty sigh, he waddled to his workstation, fully charged and ready to go, or so he thought. The sun was shining, and the birds were chirping, ideal weather for a day of grave digging. However, little did Spanky know, his first task of the day would lead to an unexpected turn of events. He was instructed to dig a grave for none other than the recently departed Brother Silas, a man known for his solemn demeanor and passion for maintaining the sanctity of the cemetery. As Spanky dug, he began to lose track of just how deep he was getting. In his food-induced haze, he decided it was the perfect time for a little jig. Digging graves and cracking jokes, what a life, he sang to himself, moving rhythmically with his shovel. Just as he was about to execute his signature twirl, he stumbled, misjudged the ground, and lost his balance, tumbling headfirst into the grave he had just dug for Brother Silas. "Oof," he exclaimed as he landed with a hearty thud, the earth trembling as he settled amidst the flowers and tombstone. Unfortunately, in his majestic fall, Spanky managed to break his left shoulder and arm, feeling a sharp pain that echoed through the stillness of the cemetery. "Holy cow," he shouted, but only the ghosts seemed to be listening. Spanky's voice echoed off the gravestones, drawing the attention of his fellow gravediggers, who soon gathered around with expressions ranging from shock to uncontrollable laughter. "Need a hand, Spanky?" one of them quipped, stifling a laugh as the others encouraged him to just dig his way out. Spanky, however, wasn't going to get out of this one with puns alone. Resigned to his fate and with laughter ringing in his ears, he lay there pondering his life choices, especially the ones involving double bacon cheeseburgers. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, and several more jokes about grave mistakes, someone had a bright idea. "Let's get ol' Spanky out of there with the backhoe," they hollered. In no time, they fetched the trusty backhoe. Spanky, securely strapped in, became the unintentional star of the show as the machine lifted him out of the grave. "What a lift," he joked, waving to the onlookers, his professional pride still intact despite his theatrical malfunction. Talk about an uplifting experience. After being safely deposited on solid ground, Spanky couldn't help but chuckle. "Well, guess that's my last grave error. Brother Silas, if you could see me now," he winced and started nursing his broken arm, "I owe you a big one. Just my luck to break an arm digging your grave." From that day forward, Spanky emerged not just as the town's beloved gravedigger but also as the embodiment of slapstick humor, forever sharing his tale of the day he took a tumble into Brother Silas's grave, earning laughter and groans in equal measure for his newly famous grave dance. And thus, the cemetery was never quite the same, filled with echoes of laughter, a broken arm, and the spirited remembrance of a gravedigger named Spanky who never quite learned how to keep his feet and his cheeseburgers grounded. Grocery store gossip. The bell above the door of Mrs. Pearl's grocery jingled a cheerful welcome, a sound as familiar to Whitesburg as the chirping of crickets on a summer night. The air inside was a comforting blend of fresh-baked bread from the bakery next door, the earthy scent of potatoes piled high in burlap sacks, and the faintly sweet aroma of ripe peaches. Sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, illuminating shelves crammed with everything from grits and gravy to fishing tackles and penny candy. It wasn't just a grocery store, it was the heart of Whitesburg, a place where the rhythm of daily life beat strong and steadily. Mrs. Pearl herself, a woman whose age was as mysterious as the contents of her well-stocked pantry, reigned over her domain with a watchful eye and a knowing smile. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, revealing a face etched with the wisdom of countless shared secrets and untold stories. She knew every family's history, their joys, their sorrows, their triumphs, and their failures. The gossip that flowed through her store was a delicate blend of truth, rumor, and embellishment, a rich tapestry woven from the threads of everyday life. Today, the store was buzzed with the usual Saturday morning activity. Agnes McMillan, her basket overflowing with ingredients for her famous Sunday pot roast, exchanged knowing glances with Mildred Johnson, whose shopping list hinted at a clandestine baking project, likely a cake for her grandson's birthday, judging by the extra carton of eggs. The two women shared a brief, conspiratorial whisper, their faces creased with smiles that spoke volumes about their long-standing friendship and shared understanding of the town's secrets. Young Billy Joe, still musing over Reverend Hollis's appearance at Jake's, fresh from his morning paper route, perched on a stool, nursing a bottle of RC Cola and observing the scene with the detached amusement of perpetual adolescence. He'd overheard snippets of conversations, bits of information that would undoubtedly find their way into his next batch of whispered rumors, a carefully cultivated skill honed over years of observing the comings and goings of Whitesburg's inhabitants. Old man Fitzwilliam, his gait slow but steady, shuffled through the aisles, his shopping list a testament to his frugal nature. He meticulously compared prices, his weathered hands carefully examining each item before placing it in his basket. He murmured a greeting to Mrs. Pearl, a quiet nod of acknowledgement, a ritual as familiar as the changing seasons. His purchases hinted at a solitary existence, but Mrs. Pearl knew better. She knew of his secret fondness for Mrs. Periwinkle's lemon meringue pies, a small indulgence he allowed himself once a month. Meanwhile, a heated debate was unfolding in the canned goods aisle. Reverend Hollis and Deacon Jones, pillars of the Whitesburg Church, were locked in a friendly disagreement over the merits of different brands of tomato soup. Their voices, though raised in argument, were filled with a warmth that belied the intensity of their discussion. The debate, observed by Mrs. Pearl with a knowing twinkle in her eye, was less about the soup and more about the subtle art of maintaining a semblance of order in a town grappling with change. A hushed conversation between Sarah May and her neighbor, Martha, revealed the latest development in the ongoing saga of the Johnson family feud, a disagreement over property lines that had been simmering for generations. Their whispers were laced with a mixture of pity and amusement, a familiar dance of sympathy and gentle ridicule that was uniquely Whitesburg. Little Emily, her eyes wide with wonder, reached for a brightly colored candy bar, her small hand hesitating before the imposing figure of her mother. The mother's weary sigh spoke volumes about the challenges of raising children in a town where the sweet temptations of the candy aisle often outweighed the wisdom of sensible budgeting. The murmur of conversations, the clinking of shopping baskets, and the rhythmic swoosh of Mrs. Pearl's broom created a soundtrack to the unfolding dramas of Whitesburg. Each interaction, each whispered exchange, each carefully chosen grocery item revealed a deeper layer of the town's complex tapestry. Mrs. Pearl, the silent observer, the keeper of secrets, knew them all. She knew who was having marital problems, judging by the sudden increase in comfort food purchases, who was expecting a baby, thanks to the multiple trips for prenatal vitamins, and who was planning a surprise party, revealed by the unusual volume of cake ingredients and party supplies. Even the placement of groceries in shopping baskets revealed unspoken narratives. A carefully organized basket often belonged to a meticulously planned life, while a haphazard arrangement reflected a more chaotic existence. The choice of produce, organic or conventional, spoke to personal values and priorities. The selection of snacks hinted at hidden desires and secret indulgences. Mrs. Pearl's keen observations extended beyond the obvious. She noted the way a man avoided eye contact while purchasing a bouquet of flowers, the slight tremor in a woman's hand as she reached for a bottle of wine, the careful selection of ingredients by a young couple venturing into their first attempts at home cooking. In the corner, a group of teenagers huddled together, their whispers punctuated by nervous giggles and furtive glances at each other. They were plotting a late-night adventure, a secret rendezvous, a whispered rebellion against the predictable rhythm of small-town life. Mrs. Pearl's eyes followed them, a knowing smile playing on her lips. She remembered her own youth, her own secret escapades in the town she now held so dear. As the morning wore on, the grocery store gradually emptied, leaving behind a trail of discarded shopping bags and the lingering scent of fresh baked goods. The bell above the door jingled one last time, signaling the end of another day in Whitesburg, a day filled with the mundane rituals of grocery shopping, but also with the quiet dramas, whispered secrets, and shared experiences that bound the community together. Mrs. Pearl, standing amidst the remnants of the day's activity, surveyed her kingdom with a sense of quiet satisfaction. She knew her customers, their secrets, their hopes, their fears. She was the silent guardian of Whitesburg's heart, a living repository of its collective memory, a woman who understood that the most interesting stories often unfolded in the aisles of a small-town grocery store. The ghosts of King Cotton still haunted Whitesburg, but the lifeblood of the town, its resilient spirit, its enduring community, continued to flow, a gentle current navigating the ever-changing currents of time, its rhythm as familiar and comforting as the jingle of the bell above Mrs. Pearl's grocery door. The stories of Whitesburg, she knew, were not just written in history books, but whispered in the aisles, etched in the faces of her customers, and preserved in the enduring rhythm of small-town life. And she, Mrs. Pearl, was there to listen, to observe, and to hold those stories within the warm embrace of her grocery store, a sanctuary of secrets, a heart of the town, beating steadily, quietly, and eternally. Episode 2 till tomorrow.